Hey, before we dive into this absolute mess, I need your help. We're working hard to bring you the real stories the NFL doesn't want you hearing, but we need 1,000 subscribers to keep this going. Hit that subscribe button right now. Help us grow this channel so we can keep exposing what's really happening behind closed doors. Your subscription literally keeps us in the game. Now let's get into this disaster. This is it. The moment the facade cracks. The moment the carefully crafted corporate spin from the Cleveland Browns organization shatters into a million pieces. For weeks, we've heard the whispers. For weeks, we've seen the confusing reports. But now the dam has officially broken. The Browns quarterback coach Bill Musgrave was forced, and I mean forced, to break his silence, to step up to the podium and explain the unexplainable. And in doing so, he didn't just clear the air, he ignited a firestorm. He was supposed to put out the flames of controversy surrounding Shedeur Sanders. Instead, he showed up with a flamethrower and a gallon of gasoline. The Cleveland Browns quarterback coach just went off. And when I say off, I mean he went into full robotic spin doctor mode with absolutely zero chill, zero believable answers, and a performance so chilling, so surgically precise in its deception, it made the entire locker room's blood pressure spike. This wasn't a press conference. This was a hostage negotiation, and Musgrave was the guy trying to convince everyone the hostage was fine while the building was on fire behind him. Forget polite corrections, forget coach speak. Musgrave came in swinging, but not with fists, with comments so sharp, so delicately spun, they could slice right through a helmet and you wouldn't even know you were bleeding until you saw the mess on the floor. Why is this happening? Why is a routine practice session, a simple scout team drill, turning into a full-blown primetime drama? Oh, just wait, because only the Cleveland Browns, the undisputed kings of chaos, the sultans of sabotage, could find a way to turn a mindless, routine preseason warm-up into a season finale cliffhanger. These are supposed to be harmless, slow-motion plays. We're talking about a bunch of backups, a bunch of guys just happy to be there, pretending to be the Baltimore Ravens for a few snaps to help the first-team defense. It's the NFL's version of study hall, but somehow in Cleveland, the entire vibe turned electric. It felt like someone lit a match in a gas-filled locker room and everyone was just waiting for the boom. And right there, standing in the dead center of this chaos, is Coach Bill Musgrave. He's dropping truth bombs with the energy of a man who has seen far too many losing seasons, been part of too many dysfunctional staffs, and has finally just snapped. But not in a loud way, in a quiet way, the scary way. He didn't sugarcoat, he didn't joke, he didn't yell, he just started dissecting the situation with the cold, detached precision of a surgeon who ran out of anesthesia 3 hours ago, and frankly doesn't care anymore. His honesty, if you can even call it that, hit so cold it made people in the press room check the thermostat. You'd expect fireworks, right? Yelling, frustration. No, that's not the Cleveland way. Musgrave's delivery had that creepy, calm, almost robotic tone. The kind of tone that makes players look at each other across the locker room like we are in deep, deep trouble. It wasn't yelling. It was surgical destruction with a polite smile. Imagine your old, terrifying math teacher catching you cheating on the final exam. But instead of yelling and ripping up your paper, she just calmly, quietly explains the mathematical formula that proves you not only failed the test, but you also failed yourself, your family, and the very concept of education. That is the energy Bill Musgrave brought to the podium, and somewhere between his robotic football wisdom and his chilling, uncanny valley calmness, he let something slip. He tried to sell the official company line. He was forced to address the rumors, and he looked the cameras dead in the eye and said it. He admitted that yes, all of the quarterbacks are getting their reps. He tried to explain it away. He said neither of these guys have ever not been the guy. And that happens a lot with guys who enter the NFL. They've been the starters their whole lives. And so there's a transition there. They get some scout team reps so they can get some balls airborne. There it is. They get some scout team reps. He said it. The problem is everyone in the city of Cleveland, everyone with 2 eyes and a brain, knows that that single line is about as fundamentally true as saying the Browns have their confetti ready and perfectly measured for a Super Bowl parade this February. Because if Shedeur Sanders is getting those reps, they must be hiding them better than Area 51 hides its aliens. They must be holding these reps in a secret underground bunker because they are not happening on the practice field. The Cleveland Browns have officially, finally, turned the simple act of practicing football into a piece of bizarre, confusing performance art, and every whispered word, every non-answer from a coach feels like the setup for the next massive scandal. Let's be real for a second. Let's cut through the spin. Everybody in Cleveland can feel it. Something is desperately, fundamentally wrong here. The whispers aren't just whispers anymore. They are a deafening roar. Respected Cleveland media personality Tony Rizzo, a man who has his finger on the pulse of that building, came out and said what everyone was thinking. He reports that when the Browns are running their scout team offense, Shedeur Sanders is not allowed to touch a football. Let me repeat that. He is not allowed to touch a football. According to Rizzo, Shedeur Sanders isn't just getting limited reps. He isn't just on the third team. He isn't even on the field for anything. He is, in Rizzo's words, a bystander watching practice. He's a spectator. He's a tourist who somehow got a sideline pass. And you know what? I have to applaud the audacity of it, because for everyone out there, for every talking head on television, for every screaming fan on Twitter who was yelling and screaming about how the Browns were disrespecting Shedeur, about how the NFL disrespected Shedeur by letting him fall in the draft, well, here's your proof. If a dude can play, you find a way to get him on the field. You find a way to let him play. Period. Stop. So the fact that he started the season off as the third string quarterback, which was already a surprise, and now we are finding out he's not even third. Oh no, we're finding out he's fourth. He is fourth string, allegedly behind Bailey Zapp. Bailey Zapp, the man who was cut by the Patriots, the man who couldn't cut it in New England's disastrous offense, is now apparently getting more of a look than the most hyped rookie quarterback in the entire draft class. The word on the street is that Shedeur Sanders is not being given a fair shot. It's not a competition. It's a coronation for someone else and a public execution for him, while other young quarterbacks, including Bailey Zapp, are out there slinging the ball, getting real reps against a real defense, getting into a rhythm. What's Shedeur doing? He's over on the sideline making sure the Gatorade cups are lined up perfectly. He's catching punts. He's a bystander. That is not practice. That is not development. That is punishment. It is humiliation dressed up as development. And Musgrave, the man who was supposed to clear all this up, the man who was supposed to pour water on the fire, stepped up to that microphone and delivered the most confusing, nonsensical, corporate-approved word salad imaginable. He smiled. He nodded. He acted like everything was perfectly fine, like this was all part of the grand genius plan. While the entire fan base and media corps were screaming, "What are you talking about?" he had the nerve to say Shedeur was getting reps. If that's brutal honesty, then I'm a billionaire flying to my private island on a unicorn. And just when you think he's done spinning this web of nonsense, just when you think he can't possibly dig the hole any deeper, Musgrave drops this absolute gem. This right here, this is the line that exposes the entire con. He says with a straight face that Dylan Gabriel is 1 play away from starting, and Shedeur is 2 plays away. 2 plays away. Let's just sit with that for a second. 2 plays away. That is the most insulting, disingenuous, pat on the head piece of garbage spin I have ever heard. Do you know what 2 plays away means in the NFL? It's like saying you're 2 scratch-off lottery tickets away from buying a yacht. Sure, it's technically possible in some bizarre alternate dimension, but it's also practically speaking a complete fantasy. In Cleveland, 2 plays away means you need 2 starting quarterbacks to collapse on the field simultaneously. It means you need doctors to perform miracles. It means you need divine intervention from the football gods, all happening before Shedeur Sanders even gets to take a real snap in a real game. It's the NFL's version of a fairy tale, minus the happy ending, and plus a lot of corporate lying. It's a way to tell someone you are not in the plan without having the guts to say it to their face. Now I want you to picture this from Shedeur Sanders' point of view, just for a second. You are the son of Deshaun Sanders. You are football royalty. You were raised for greatness. You've been the guy your entire life, just as Musgrave said. The cameras follow you everywhere you go. The hype is through the roof. Your jersey, a 5th round pick's jersey, is in the top 5 of all NFL jersey sales. You are a walking, breathing brand, a mascot bringing in millions for the franchise before you've even thrown a pass. And then suddenly you're out here on a Tuesday afternoon in the mud pretending to be other quarterbacks. You're pretending to be Joe Burrow one week. You're pretending to be Lamar Jackson the next. You are running fake plays, running around on a card handed to you by an assistant while the real action, the real development, the real football happens on another field without you. It's not just humbling, it is humiliating. You are out there mimicking mimicking Lamar's style, mimicking his moves with absolutely none of Lamar's glory, none of Lamar's stats, and none of Lamar's paychecks. At this point, the Cleveland Browns might as well just sign Shedeur up for acting classes, because clearly he's just playing a role, not quarterback. He's a background extra in his own career. And the reports back this up. ESPN has reported that Shedeur Sanders is not receiving any reps. That means no second team, no third team, not even scout team reps. Let that sink in. He is just sitting in practice, throwing the ball to whoever, just going through drills all day. No practice reps, no 11 on 11, no 7 on 7, nothing. How can he improve? Why is this happening? Why is he not being given an opportunity to even improve his skills? That is the entire point of practice. I can understand not letting him go with the ones at this point. You've made that clear. Maybe you can even make an argument for no second team reps, but not even scout team, the reps that literally no one wants. And just when it seemed like the awkwardness couldn't possibly get any worse, just when you thought Musgrave had said his piece and would run off the stage, he decided he had more to say. He decided to double down. After dropping the 2 plays away bomb, he started explaining how they're developing him without, actually letting him play football. This is where it goes from tragedy to comedy. Musgrave started explaining how drill work is crucial. He started talking about studying. And then he gave us the word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. He said they're doing simulations. He said, I call them simulations where we do almost stand-up meetings or walkthroughs, both in the meeting room and perhaps out on the grass, or even on the carpet where we have more space. So there's ways that we are trying to be creative on the carpet. Are you kidding me? He's not practicing football. He's practicing in a meeting room. He's standing on a carpet in the facility pretending to call plays. And this is what Bill Musgrave is calling creative development. This is what they're selling to the fans as some sacred rite of passage to Canton. Come on, man. That's not development. That's like telling a kid who is shooting free throws in his driveway with no ball and no hoop, just pretending to shoot. Congrats, kid. You're basically in the NBA now. This was the moment. The brutal honesty wasn't that Shedeur was bad. The brutal honesty was Musgrave with a straight face trying to sell us this steaming pile of, well, you know what? This was brutal comedy. This was an insult to our intelligence. And the wildest part, the most twisted part of it all, Musgrave actually tried to sell the idea that this scout team duty, or in this case the lack of scout team duty, and the increase in carpet simulations was an art form. He painted it like some next level cerebral performance where every fake snap in a conference room builds character. Meanwhile, Cleveland fans are staring at their screens, staring at their phones like, what in the blue hell did we just hear? They watched a first-round storyline, a story full of hype, legacy, and promise, get turned into a bad off-Broadway sitcom about football purgatory. The supposed subplot here, the one Musgrave is trying to sell, is that Shedeur is learning. But what he's really learning, what he's actually learning, is how it feels to be trapped in quarterback limbo. He's learning what it feels like to be completely and totally marginalized. Musgrave, bless his heart, started talking about immersion in the game plan, like Shedeur was plugged into the Matrix, downloading Kung Fu. But no, coach, he's not Neo. He's a frustrated, confused rookie who is wondering how in the span of just a few short months, he went from being the heir to the Sanders legacy to being Cleveland's designated Lamar Jackson impersonator. And now, apparently he's not even good enough to do that. And the funniest, most painful, most twisted gut punch of all, Musgrave made it sound like Shedeur should thank them for it. Like, this is a gift. Congrats, kid. You're not the starter. You're not the backup. You're not even the emergency option. You are the emergency plan for the emergency plan. But hey, at least you get to wear the uniform, right? At least you get to throw a couple of warm-up spirals between water breaks, right? At this rate, the Browns might as well hand him a clipboard and a whistle so he can just cosplay as the assistant quarterback coach. At least then he would finally get credit for what he's actually doing, which is teaching patience by example and generating millions in jersey sales while being treated like a piece of equipment. So after all that spin, after all that creative development talk, after all the simulations on the carpet, what's the grand conclusion from Bill Musgrave? Apparently everyone's getting scout team reps. Apparently everything is fine. According to Musgrave, Shedeur's development is right on track. But let's be honest, that's the same kind of fine people say when their house is actively on fire. The dog is on the roof and they're standing in the front yard holding a single garden hose. Word inside the locker room, word from the reporters who are forced to watch this charade every day, says that Shedeur's reps are about as rare as a Cleveland playoff win, and that's saying something. When he doesn't get a snap, it's just a normal day. If he does, suddenly it's news, suddenly it's drama, suddenly it's controversial, and that right there, that simple fact, tells you everything you need to know. The Cleveland Browns have mastered the art of turning basic everyday football operations into full-blown paranoid conspiracy theories. It's like they cannot go one single week without spinning a new bizarre saga of their own making. And Musgrave's long-winded "everything's great, we're all friends here" speech didn't help one bit. That press conference felt like a mandatory therapy session for a coach who is being forced to pretend everything's normal while the building is cracking in half right behind him. Reporters were asking him about reps. They were asking about interceptions. They were asking about team chemistry. And Musgrave responded like he was giving a TED Talk on emotional intelligence in young quarterbacks. You could practically see the thought bubble floating above his head saying, "Please, please stop asking me about Shedeur." The man was dodging questions like a politician caught red-handed in a scandal. If you listen closely to the full presser, he answered at least 3 random unrelated questions by pivoting to talk about Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco. That's when you know the tension in that quarterback room is real. It is thick enough to cut with a playbook. Right now, that quarterback room doesn't look like a team. It looks like the most dysfunctional family dinner you've ever been to. You've got Joe Flacco sitting at the head of the table with his calm veteran, "I'm just happy to be here, dad" energy, trying to stop everyone from throwing mashed potatoes. You've got Dylan Gabriel, the overachieving middle child, desperate to prove that he's next in line for the throne, that he deserves the keys to the car. And then there's Shedeur, the youngest, the most famous, the one everyone is actually talking about, and he's sitting at the kids' table in silence, wondering why nobody trusts him to even hold the car keys, even though he's the one who's been practicing the most in the driveway, or in this case, on the carpet. Musgrave keeps insisting it's just healthy competition, but if this is healthy, then Cleveland's definition of toxic must involve smoke alarms, a 5-alarm fire, and a hazmat team. Picture this: the Browns' defense is out there during practice, hyped up, flying around, ready to crush anything that moves. But let's be real, this isn't practice, it's a straight-up comedy rehearsal. And I, for one, am sick and tired of seeing how the Cleveland Browns, and by extension, the NFL, is treating Shedeur Sanders. This right here, this has got me hotter than 5th grade. This has got me hotter than Texas on an August noon when it's 111 degrees. This right here is complete nonsense. I'm trying not to curse. I'm trying to stay kid-friendly, but this is crazy. Not even running practice squad. They say he's not even practicing. He's just there. And here's where the irony, the grand hypocrisy, hits you like a blitzing linebacker. Musgrave swears that scout team duty is valuable. He calls it a key part of development. Yeah, sure. And I'm the next MVP of the league. Across the NFL, real quarterbacks, guys who are actual prospects, would rather sit in rush hour traffic for 3 hours than spend an entire season pretending to be another team's offense. It's busy work. It's grunt work. It's plain and simple, like copying someone else's homework and calling it studying. You're doing something, sure, but you're not actually learning anything about your own system. For Shedeur, this isn't growth. It's punishment in a disguise so obvious it might as well come with a giant neon label that says "time waster" included. But of course, Musgrave and the Browns organization keep pushing the same fairy tale. Everyone's learning, everyone's improving, it's all part of the plan. And Shedeur, don't you worry your pretty little head. You're just 2 plays away from seeing the field, which in Cleveland language probably means you'll get a chance to play when Lake Erie freezes over into a giant margarita and pigs fly over the stadium. The fans know it, the reporters know it, and you better believe most of all, Shedeur Sanders knows it too. Remember what that Hall of Fame quarterback said? He said the assessment in the preseason was never fair. He said, and I'm quoting here, "Dylan Gabriel played well again, but had good opportunities to make plays." Shedeur Sanders didn't have those same opportunities, so it was hard to make an assessment. He played with the threes. Anyone with half a brain could see that 4 of the 5 offensive linemen playing with him got waived the very next day. He was running for his life. I mean, if I'm that kid's father, his uncle, his brother, I'm going, you know what? Let us go somewhere we can actually try and play. Let us go somewhere we can actually be developed. There was never a 4-man competition. There was never a 3-man competition. Shedeur was never in the competition. And if that's how the Browns see it, which fine, that's their right, then why did you draft him? Why did you draft him? That's exactly why the rumors won't die. That's why this story is exploding. There is no universe, none, where a guy with that much talent, that much pedigree, and that much blinding spotlight is actually happy being the NFL's #1 impersonator. He's out there playing pretend, running simulations on the carpet, while the rest of the league and the rest of his draft class is playing for real. So naturally, the fan base has exploded. Browns Twitter, Browns Reddit, it all looks like a war zone right now. It's full of memes, full of panic, and full of conspiracy threads. And speaking of conspiracies, there is a very loud and very believable corner of the internet that is convinced this is all part of a master plan, not by the Browns, but by Deshaun Sanders himself. They swear that Primetime is playing 4-dimensional chess, that he knew this would happen, that this is all part of an elaborate setup to get his son traded to a real contender, to a team that will actually develop him to a place where he can actually shine. And honestly, after listening to Bill Musgrave's press conference, that might be the most believable theory out there. Because let's not sugarcoat this. The Cleveland Browns have handled quarterbacks like disposable razors for years. They use them once, they get dull, and they just toss them and grab another one from the shelf. Cleveland doesn't develop quarterbacks. They recycle them, and somehow in their infinite wisdom, they have managed to turn one of the most hyped, most talented, most talked about prospects in football into a glorified, overpaid, jersey-selling scout team decoy. And that is the real punchline. They use them, and then they toss them out, and then they act shocked when they keep cutting themselves. That is the Cleveland way. So when Bill Musgrave insists that they are handling Shedeur's development perfectly, all you can do is laugh and say, yeah, sure, pull the other one. Because right now, his rookie season doesn't look like an NFL journey. It looks like a hostage situation with cleats. He's out there, by all accounts, doing everything right. He's showing up early. He's staying late. He's memorizing the playbook like it's sacred scripture. And what does he get in return? A few meaningless scout team tosses if he's lucky, and a friendly, patronizing pat on the helmet from Bill Musgrave. Good job, kid. Now go back to the carpet and pretend to be Lamar again. You're 2 plays away. That's not development. That's punishment with a participation ribbon. If this is what they call growth, then sitting on a park bench must be Olympic training. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that Musgrave knows exactly how to make it sound legitimate. He drops all the fancy coach talk, immersion, simulation, art form. He's trying to make it seem like Shedeur is enrolled in some elite high-level quarterback academy, some graduate-level course in quarterbacking. But everybody watching, everybody listening can see the truth hiding behind those buzzwords. We see the forced smiles. We see the tight shoulders. We see the little hesitations when the coaches speak about him. It's not confidence. It's a cover-up. They literally just got him there as a mascot at this point. They know people are buying jerseys. He's in the top 5 of #1 selling jerseys in the league, and he can't even get any practice reps. Listen, we need to start something right now. This has gotten completely out of control. The way they are treating the Sanders boys, this is horrible. This is like the worst I've ever seen. People around the team can feel it. This isn't about reps. It's about trust. The Browns organization clearly doesn't trust Shedeur Sanders enough to give him real developmental snaps, but they also don't have the guts, the courage to admit it publicly. So instead, they feed the fans this bland, sanitized, corporate-approved press conference and hope to God that nobody catches the contradictions. But guess what? We all caught them. Everybody caught them. And now the speculation is spiraling completely out of control. Fans are already deep into the what-if game. What if Shedeur gets fed up and publicly demands a trade? What if Deshaun is already pulling strings behind the scenes, making calls? What if this whole scout team saga, this whole on-the-carpet simulation nonsense, is just step 1 in a master plan to get him out of Cleveland? Every single one of those theories sounds more believable than the official story, because Cleveland's version is just too dull, too safe, and just too Cleveland. And at this point, one thing is crystal clear. The truth might not be flashy, but it's definitely not the one they're selling. If Musgrave's brutal honesty was a storm, then the Browns' PR team has been running around in flip-flops trying to sweep ocean water off the deck of the Titanic with a flimsy broom. The spin has been painful to watch. They're throwing out all the safe words: development, growth, patience, process. They're mashing those buttons like a broken record. Meanwhile, the rest of the football world is sitting there watching Shedeur Sanders run scout team plays, when he even gets them, like a guy who bought VIP tickets to a concert only to end up in the nosebleeds behind a pillar. It's like paying for front row seats at a Beyonce concert and then being told your job is to sit behind the sound crew and make sure their water bottles are full.